beauties, Charismets here. How are you doing first of all? I hope you are having an awesome day, an awesome week. So if you've clicked on this video, then you're ready to talk about the connection between the inner child and relationships. So the reason why I am inspired to talk about this topic, because this has been a big part of my journey in terms of finding the love that I want, and also when I found the love that I wanted, my inner child was still playing up. And I know that this is the case for a lot of people, and a lot of people are unaware as well. So if you clicked onto this video, then you probably have some awareness that there's something that is potentially self-sabotaging dating opportunities, experiences, or perhaps you're in a relationship and through kind of unexplained emotions that are evoked from yourself, or again self-sabotaging behavior, or you do things subconsciously to kind of test to see if it's safe or if it's really real. All these things are basically from our inner child, and when our inner child is kind of ruling the rooster, then it can really stop us from really, firstly, if we're in a relationship, really enjoying that experience. And if we're on the pursuit of finding that right relationship, it can stop us from really connecting with the right person or attracting the right person, because our inner child has certain things that need to be dealt with and healed. So firstly, I'm going to briefly talk about what the inner child is. So from a psychological point of view, the inner child is a part of our psyche that is still childlike, and it does normally work from a place of fear, obviously past traumas that has happened in our childhood. It can be there can be a dominant age that normally is playing out, that voice that you hear, that you can kind of associate that is, when you really go a bit deeper, you can see that it's from a place of a childhood experience, a childlike part of you. I like to say at this point as well, it's really important to say that inner child doesn't have to be a negative thing. Our inner child is also a part of us in terms of psychology, our psyche, that just really is childlike and wants to feel childlike joy, fun, happiness, freedom. And that's really important even in terms of the process that I'm going to talk about in a sec, to really embrace that childlike part of us as well. But we also need to get in check this kind of more out of control part of our psyche that really needs to be healed, so we can really manifest and get what we want out of life as adults, because we are adults now, and a big part of the self-development world, the healing world, is really doing that inner child healing. So that's the definition in terms of psychology, and now I'm going to bring it more to spirituality. So this is a bit of me, this is where I like to take it to. So bringing it to spirituality in terms of the inner child now. So the inner child in terms of spirituality is actually an energy within us, within our bodies, within our chakras. It can kind of be located in some of our chakras, especially the lower chakras, especially in terms of it manifesting in more dysfunctional energies that need to be healed. So for example, for a lot of people, there can be trauma, childhood needs that haven't been met, or beliefs that have been formed through traumatic experiences as a child that can be located, can be blocking the chakras. Specifically, I'm talking about now, I'm going to use the example of the root chakra. So I'm going to give you an example. So the root chakra on its more lower level is about survival, being able to look after yourself in the world. On the higher level, it's really, and obviously this goes through stages, but you're really aiming to get to a place of abundance and actually knowing that you are taken care of by the universe and everything is coming to you when you allow it to come to you. So the root chakra is actually very much also, it's really focusing on feeling safe within self, trusting the universe, trusting yourself, and it's also associated with your worth as well, in terms of how much do you value yourself, so you can actually be receptive and actually letting the things that you need so you can actually let in the help that you need, you can actually let in the abundance that you want, you desire, so you can have the life that you deserve. So it is very associated with how much we value ourselves and our worth, and how we see our worth more specifically. So in terms of the inner child, now let's say that you have some blockages, some trauma in that area, then this can manifest in your adult life as a woman having issues in terms of maybe infections in that area, bladder issues, or either your coccyx, I can't say it, that bone really just placed above the cushion of your buttocks. You can have like some bone problems there. There can be lots of different ways in terms of physically, in terms of your health, how it can manifest. In terms of your everyday life, you could have challenges really earning the money that you want, also retaining and being able to actually maintain the money that you want as well. So you could have no issues in terms of making money, but for some reason it always disappears and you can't keep a hold of that money. So just to make it clear, in terms of the root chakra, it's really about survival on its lowest levels, and the middle level, it's about being able to look after yourself, knowing life has your back, and the highest level is really knowing that you as a human, as a soul, in a human body, your God-given right is to really truly experience abundance and not this hard work, things flowing to you. So in terms of your inner child, if you have a wounding around that, maybe as a child you grew up in a family where things were scarce in terms of money, in terms of food, and it really brought trauma for you in terms of seeing your mother, let's say, or your dad struggling to make ends meet, and you took on certain beliefs around that through maybe your parents were arguing always about money. You took on certain beliefs around that, consciously or subconsciously, in terms of the universe not having your back, especially around money, let's say. And then let's say now you are starting to date, and you have this program around men wanting to somewhat lead in terms of finances. And let's say subconsciously you have such a strong trauma around, let's say, your dad not being able to provide, and let's say your parents ended up getting divorced, and even if that wasn't the reason, you decided that was the reason because money was the issue, money is evil, and your dad wasn't able to provide, he was always losing his job, let's say there was a bad economic period, whatever it is, you decided that money is bad, and you can't trust the masculine to provide. Let's say you took that belief on, and then you start to date, and your little girl from that childhood experience is heartbroken that your family broke up because of money, and now let's say you keep attracting guys that are maybe a bit egotistical, that are very money orientated, very flashy, and you just don't know why is this happening, and then let's say in your dating situation, they try to control you around money, or they try to like rub it in your face, and you just don't know why it triggers you so much, and you associate money to be evil, in relation to men being evil. You can't trust the man to be, let's say, honourable and provide for his family, because you're attracting these egotistical men that are only really providing for themselves. So in this situation, you can see how this can really play into our love lives, our dating lives, and it can be so subtle. You really do need to do that work of actually delving into your childhood to start to see the patterns and the little clues to how things are connected, because it's always connected. Nothing happens by chance. Just remember that. Nothing happens by chance. So in terms of that example, this is an example of how, like, on a real 3D aspect, how it can manifest in the dating life, and also how your inner child is beyond your psyche, is also can affect, it's actually an energy that's within your body. So let's talk about now how we can overcome this. So actually, let's just talk about a bit more the inner child first. So in terms of the inner child, we've made, in terms of my example, I've made clear that the inner child itself is very powerful, and a lot of people are at a stage where, in terms of their consciousness and their awareness and where they're at in terms of their healing around the inner child is actually ruling their manifestation in terms of what they're attracting into their life, specifically around love and dating. In terms of what we're talking about in this video today. So why is the inner child doing this? So firstly, we've kind of indicated that the inner child in this specific example feels unsafe. It doesn't want to be in that same situation that it was as a child. It decided that money was the reason why their parents broke up, especially in terms of trusting a man. In terms of money, is unsafe because bad things happen. Our parents break up, they argue. You maybe decided that your dad made lots of mistakes around money. He wasn't responsible. Let's throw something else in there. Maybe he was a secret gambler and that came out. Whatever happened in your childhood is going to affect you in your dating life if you don't deal with it, and your inner child, through that trauma that happened, will take control of your adult life because it feels unsafe. So firstly, your inner child can feel unsafe. There can also be a dichotomy that happens with your inner child, and it's something that I go more into in terms of my one-to-one work, because it can be not complex, but it can be very individual for each person. But there can be this kind of, when I say dichotomy, there can be this want but also fear. So let's use an example again. You want in your adult life, you want this relationship, but you feel too unsafe to actually let someone in. So let's say really what's happening here is that you're actually attracting guys that you don't really want. Actually, you want a guy that is financially stable, but you don't want these egotistical narcissist guys, but you're attracting that because it's actually your inner child's way of trying to keep you safe, showing you guys, because there's a plethora of different guys out there in the universe, but it's showing you these type of guys to prove its belief, to keep you safe. So that can be the dichotomy. It's like you want this relationship, but actually you're too scared to actually have the relationship, the guy that you want, because then you will actually have to, let's say, this is actually going a bit deeper, let's say then you would have to actually confront that your dad was irresponsible and he did spend all the money on gambling, and he put that before his family and his children and his wife, and he was a big component in terms of why the relationship broke up. So you'd have to really acknowledge and process all those emotions that you couldn't process as a child. So that's where the dichotomy can happen, and a lot of us are unaware in certain areas, especially when our inner child is kind of ruling the roost and we're just kind of acting out stuff and not realizing that there is a push and pull that's at play. Okay, so also our inner child works on the past, it works on patterns. It will be literally saying, but this happened, this happened, this happened, and this happened, so why would anything change? So in a second I'm going to go into like what we actually need to do to start to heal the inner child so we can have the relationship that we want. But the inner child works on the past and it works on patterns. Also the inner child can take control because it doesn't feel assured that you as your adult self has the capability to hold your inner child and nurture your inner child. So there's a big component of the healing work is reparenting. I'll talk about that in a sec, but also self-love, nourishing the inner child, making it known to the inner child that it is safe, that you have the inner child, and that has to also be You have to get to a place where you can separate the inner child to your adult self and be self-assured to reassure the inner child. And then lastly, well, that's actually my main point. So let's go into now how we can start to heal the inner child so we can have the relationship that we want. So the first thing is get to know your inner child. Do you even know who your inner child is? Do you know what its dislikes are, its likes, what it's scared of, what it really wants? You need to get to know your inner child. Most of us are running away from our inner child. We're trying to suppress it. It's a part of our personality that we have hatred for and we just loathe. We need to get to know the inner child before we can even love the inner child. So I would also put into there is also it's important once you get to know the inner child to start to cultivate a relationship and start to love the inner child and have unconditional love for the child. Start to understand where it's coming from. It's important to also delve into the past. So start to journal, anytime something comes up, let's say in the dating scene, and you need to start to ask yourself questions. What does this person that I'm dating or seeing, and this person is triggering me or whatever, who does this person remind me of? Why did this trigger me so much? What feeling did it bring up? What does it mean to me? What age of me feels like that? Start to journal so you start to see the connections between your inner child, your childhood experiences, and the here and now in your adult self. All of this that I'm saying as well is about, also it's very important, you need to acknowledge your inner child. It's kind of what I'm saying already in terms of even before you get to loving your inner child, you need to get to know it, build a relationship with your inner child, acknowledge its pain specifically, acknowledge its emotions, acknowledge its fear. It's really vital. Also, it's like this is kind of hand in hand as well. Acknowledge, but also allow yourself to process those emotions that weren't processed as a child. If that means screaming into a pillow, if that means crying out loud, hold space for that inner child. Let that inner child know that it's okay to express those emotions that probably were looked down upon as a child. You probably were told to be quiet, to act a certain way, that crying or screaming wasn't right. There's a lot of energy, emotions in terms of the reason why your inner child is holding on to the reins, because it doesn't feel safe. It needs to know. Sometimes all it takes is it knowing that you have its back, you holding space for it to actually process those emotions. And then in terms of like 3D life, okay, you want to get what you want in terms of love, it's really important to start to frame the benefits in terms of the reasons why you're going after what you're going after. And you need to be very specific as well. Be specific in terms of what is in it specifically for your inner child, because your inner child will find everything in relation to the past why it's not safe to be vulnerable and be intimate in the right relationship with the right person. You're probably going to have to also reassure your inner child in any given moment as well, especially when you start to do this work. You need to see this inner child like a child. It needs reassurance in moments in terms of going on a certain date or choosing to be vulnerable. Really just be patient with your inner child, and sometimes even when you're in the presence of someone else, just mentally reassure your inner child, frame the benefits. And then lastly, sometimes you have to give your inner child tough love as well. You need to let your inner child know who is in charge. With conviction, tell your inner child, no, we're doing this, we're going on this date, and this is what's happening, and you're going to have to get on board, but I'm not going to abandon you. I am going to be there for you when you feel scared. I'm the one that's in control. You don't have to take control. You don't need to worry anymore. I am going to look after you. So, with that, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Have an amazing day. Take the action that you need to take in terms of going on that date, being more open and intimate and vulnerable with your partner. Whatever it is, you can do it, because all you need to do all you need to do is your inner child needs to know that you have its back. So with that, sending you guys so much love, and I will see you soon. Also, remember to subscribe, like the video and share. Bye for now.